Okay, so do you need a 1000K to run the RTX 3080? We're going to find out in today's experiment. Alright, in today's experiment, kindly sponsored by MSI International, we have Team Blue as well as Team Red. So in Team Blue, we have a 1000K with the MSI Max 790 Ace. Team Red, we have a 3800 XT with B550 gaming carbon Wi-Fi. We'll be running some gaming benchmarks using NVIDIA drivers 456.36, pitting the RTX 3080 versus a Galaxy 2080 Ti, as seen in our previous video, the review for the RTX 3080. We have also included the rest of the PC parts. If you're interested, you can check out on the list. And so right now, I'm going to bring Gordon in. He's going to explain to you why he decided to use these two sets for the experiment, as well as show you all of the gaming benchmarks. So, Gordon, you may take over.
Okay, right. Thanks, Mel. So, you may be wondering, why has MSI thrown this particular combination of parts and other things to us for testing? So, the reason is this. It's mainly to do with their pricing as well as their positioning. On this corner down here, the i9 plus the Z490 Ace, this represents what happens when you walk into a shop and you tell them, I want the very best Intel desktop CPU and I want one of MSI's best Z490 motherboards. You get the i9 10900K and you get the MSI Max Z490 Ace right over here. The thing is that the amount that you pay for this combo is about SGD 1400, or in US money, that is almost about 1K USD. This, on the other corner here, represents a typical mid-high tier rig. We have the Ryzen 7 3800X right over here, which while it is a pretty fast CPU with 8 cores, 16 threads, pretty decent clock speeds, that kind of thing, it is still pales in comparisons to its higher-end Ryzen 9 siblings like the 3900 XT or the 3950X. The motherboard here, the MSI B550 gaming carbon Wi-Fi, represents a mid-range Ryzen motherboard. I mean, sure, it's the B550 gaming carbon Wi-Fi here is quite feature-packed, as you've seen in our previous video. But of course, if you were to compare it to something in the X570 MSI range, such as the X570 Unify or the X570 Ace, this one stands lower in the pecking order. But this combination here in Singapore costs you just SGD $900, or in US money, that is USD 650. So, given all that together, the difference between these two works out to about SGD 500, or in US money, we're looking at about USD 350 or 360. So, the question and the point that we are trying to answer, under what circumstances should I pay that extra money for this? Or should I just save that US 350 and go with this? Let's get into the benchmark and let's find out. Okay, right. The first two titles that we are going into will be two very successful massive multiplayer online titles. One being CSGO, the other one being Rainbow Six Siege. Now, there's a very good reason, as you can see here, why Intel often uses CSGO in their marketing material. Because you can clearly see here that at all three resolutions, especially at 1080p, the 10900K holds a sizable advantage over the 3800 XT. However, it is also important to note here that at this point, the FPS is so high in the region of like 500 to 600 that in normal gameplay, you're not going to notice much of a difference. Rainbow Six Siege also exhibits a similar behavior with sizable gaps at all three resolutions between the two CPUs. One thing to note for Rainbow Six Siege, however, is that at 4K, the gap becomes much smaller, meaning that at 4K, the GPU becomes much more of a bottleneck in Rainbow Six Siege. Next, we come to two modern Ubisoft titles, the one being AC Odyssey and the other one being Tom Clancy's Division 2. Now, in stark contrast to the earlier two results, you will notice down here that between the two CPUs at any given GPU at any given resolution, there is either only a slight advantage that the Intel has over the AMD CPU, or there is no advantage at all. Which kind of shows to you that both of these games, the GPU is and will be the main limiting factor in determining the overall performance. Finally, we come to Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Now, the way this game behaves is quite different from the earlier two examples. In that at 1080p, the Intel CPU has quite an advantage over the Ryzen 7 3800 XT with both GPUs itself, although the gap for the 2080 Ti with both CPUs is smaller than that of the RTX 3080. Next, we come to 1440p. Now, 1440p, there is no difference for the 2080 Ti, but there is still a gap when you test using the newer RTX 3080. Finally, we come to 4K, and this is where it is clearly the GPU that is the limiting factor here. Cause with both CPUs, they both churn exactly the same scores with exactly the same GPUs.
Alright, so we have done with all the gaming benchmarks, so right now let's go on to the point of the story. Gordon, so what do you think after seeing all these benchmarks?
Right, if you were to ask me what will be my conclusion after thoroughly testing these two fellas, with both the RTX 3080 as well as the previous gen RTX 2080 Ti, what I have to say is this. Which of these you should go for? It will very much depend on your scenario, what are you using it for, what's your budget level, that thing. Coming to the example of budget, let's say you've got a pretty large budget, SGD 4K, 5K, maybe even more. You've got the very best in casing, power supply, RAM, the works. If you just want to round it off and go for the best gaming config ever, just go for this. The i9 plus the Z490S. The other scenario where this is a more compelling option, even though your budget may be more limited, is you're an esports gamer, 1080p, very high refresh rate monitor, let's say like 240Hz or some of those new 360Hz monitors that are coming out. If you are in that category and you play a lot of esports titles that regularly can pump out this high level of frames per second, for assurance and peace of mind, you go for the Intel plus Z490. Yeah, because in your stat scenario, that $500 is well worth it. However, the number of people that actually pair the 3080 with 1080p high refresh rate monitor are somewhat in the minority based on my own experience with my customers. The majority of my customers who will buy something in this range are most likely pairing it with 1440p normal aspect ratio monitor, or they're going for one of those fancy new ultra wides. In which case, the advantage that this guy holds over this becomes not so clear cut, because the numbers at those resolutions is not so big. And also, if at that range your budget is limited by a hard fixed number, like let's say you only got SGD $3,000 or USD 2.2, 2.3K,
Yep.
you have this fixed number, you cannot go over it. So, going with this fella over here, that saving of SGD $500 can mean the difference between, let's say, getting an RTX 3070 or having a bit more dough to pony out for an RTX 3080. Or if your budget already allows for an RTX 3080, at least now you got a little bit more extra cash to go for, hey, go all the way, RTX 3090. Yeah, so it's sort of like balancing the parts. You give up a bit on the CPU and motherboard to splash out on the GPU itself. Or maybe improve some other part of your rig itself. Maybe you could buy like a nicer case, better fans, higher spec RAM, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's the conclusion that I have as to which of these two you should go for. So we hope this video has been very helpful to you, whether you should go for this or you should go for this.
Alright, so yeah, as Gordon mentioned, the main point is that if you have the wallet, go for this. If your budget is more conservative, go for this. This video has been very extensive, a lot of benchmarking, so thank you.
Yes, a lot of numbers.
Yeah, spend a lot of time doing this, so make sure if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. And yeah, if you're not caught the review of the RTX 30 Gaming X Trio, make sure to do so in our previous video. It's been doing very well, thank you very much. Yeah, because this thing is going to say goodbye soon, but hopefully we're going to have more 3080 and 3090 content coming up.
Yeah.
Okay, so from Gordon and I, goodbye.